The hand of Yahuwah was upon me and took me out by the Spirit of Yahuwah and set me down in the midst of the valley. And it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them, all around, and see, there were very many on the surface of the valley. And see, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, will these bones live? And I said, O Master, Yahuwah, you know. Again he said to me, prophesy to these bones, and you shall say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah to these bones, see, I am bringing into you a spirit, and you shall live, and I shall put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put a spirit in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and there was a rattling. And the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked, and saw sinews, and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them, but there was no spirit in them. He then said to me, prophesy to the spirit. Prophesy, Son of man, and you shall say to the spirit, thus said the Master Yahuwah, come from the four winds, O spirit, and breathe on these killed ones so that they live. And as I prophesied, as he commanded me, and the spirit came into them, and they lived, and they stood upon their feet, a very great army.
For the rest of your lives, even when you have come to be men, you must be on guard against the white Tobab and the black traders who help them. These things I'm going to tell you now you must hear with more than your ears, for not to do as I say can mean you're being stolen away to a place outside our world, outside of us, forever.
Bump it to start.
Blood of the prophets circulates through my veins. My fathers came here in chains. Your servants, they have all slain. Their blood cries out for vengeance from Abel to Zechariah, the truth.
Get 'em in, get 'em in. That sun is hot and plenty bright. Let's get down to business and get home tonight. Bid 'em in. Auctioning slaves is a real high art. Bring that young gal, Roy. She's good for a start. Bid 'em in, get 'em in.
Over half the sales at auction will tear a family apart.
If you've ever been ate, to think of being separated from your mother and your father and sold and you'll never see them again.
Just look at her face, she sure ain't homely. Like Sheba in the Bible, she's black but comely. Bid 'em in.
Shemot 19:6, 1,019 ships scattered to the four winds for our sins. O Jerusalem.
Bump it to start.
I bought you. You're my property now. Cost a fair price. Enough for a payment on a cotton gin, your overseer said. Well, Kizzy, I'm gonna get my money's worth.
Buyers demand the most fertile slaves for breeding. The most expensive are light-skinned teenage virgins. Rape is common.
You're gonna be all right, honey. Be all right.
Don't mind them tears, that's one of her tricks. 5/5 is bidding, who'll say 6?
The dreams of the enemy in our head, it started out when the edict couldn't be read.
Bid 'em in.
Shipped off on Atlantic tops, the nightmare didn't stop. Sold and whipped, lynched and soul beat, sinking sand with those lashes embedded in the psyche.
650, don't be slow. 7 is the bid, gonna let her go. At 7 she's going. Gone. Pull her down, Roy, bring the next one on. Bid 'em in, get 'em in, bid 'em in.
Kunta Kinte. Son of a...
Your name is Toby. Now tell me your name. Toby's your name. Now I'll ask you again. Tell me your name. Say it! Say it! Say it! Toby! Toby! It's Toby! Now say it! Toby!
Fast forward, there's a sudden flash, crack, boom! Don't assume that's the door! I screamed. I've seen this scene before. The ominous open to the bottomless floor.
Say it! Say Toby! Tell me your name! Say it, damn you! Say Toby! Just say your name!
He said it. He said it.
Say it again. Louder. What's your name? What's your name?
Far from home in foreign lands, not welcome. That's the debt that we owe to Yahuwah for our rebellion. A stiff-necked people who just can't seem to listen. From kings and priests to slaves locked in them prisons.
And I pray that you and I will listen, hear, and understand. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Get your hand out of my pocket! Get your hand out of my pocket, nigga! You better get your hands out of my
Brother,
pocket! Get your hand out!
brother, please hold it.
Calm
down, please, brother.
Oh my God! No!
Civil rights melted segregation, but as Martin was pacing, he had an unsinkable thought. All that we fought for
That dream that I had that
was a trapdoor.
turned into a night.
You must murder a freedom fighter like Bobby Hutton, but you can't murder freedom fighters.
Well, he was standing on the balcony at the motel, and he came out of his room and came to the edge of the balcony, and as he came out, he was shot.
Report we just got is that it's fatal.
I beg your pardon?
We just got the report that it's fatal, that the shot was fatal. The wound was fatal.
So he kept on hollering out. Finally, they stopped. They pushed me and the other brother by the kitchen door and told us to face the wall. Heard a pig say, he's barely alive, he'll barely make it. I assume they were talking about Chairman Fred. So then they started shooting the pigs. They started shooting again. I heard the sister scream. They stopped shooting. Pig said, he's good and dead now.
Somebody get an ambulance!
As his flight soars in the heavens, I adjust my seat. I think, how can we beat the odds on every corner? Whorehouses promise some sort of exit. So I look back out the window to see if we can make it.
He started to tell the officer that he was unarmed and that you should stop shooting me. Before he can get his second sentence out, the officer fired several more shots into his head and chest areas. And he fell dramatically in the fatal position. I did not hear once he yelled, freeze, stop, or halt. It was just horrible to watch. Yeah, it hurt him a lot. I see it in his eyes, it hurt him a lot. It was definitely like being shot like an animal. It was almost like putting someone to execution.
This is MS.
Royal princes and future kings, I hope you're elevating whether you're in the hood or the penthouse. As you know, we are in a war, an invisible war that it's apocalyptic. Like how the Romans destroyed that great city of Jerusalem, or how those slave ships swayed off the shores of Africa. Today, I want to go deeper than the surface because what we are facing today is way more diabolical. Slavery never ended, it just changed clothes. We've inherited extreme trauma these last 400 years. We had some of the most prosperous and blessed dynasties known to human history. And within a snap of a finger, we are sold for rice, sugar, and meaningless trinkets. Even to this day, it has destroyed any sense of self-worth in a country so rich. I know firsthand, it's like having a college degree and having to settle for a minimum wage job. Yet the foreigner rises higher and higher than you. Many of us didn't even graduate high school. No money. Not even able to take care of our family. Somewhere broken and feeling defeated. The world tells us we must conquer all. The kingdom of darkness recruits individuals like these. They string them along like puppets on stages, you know, the good old blacks. So that you may vicariously live through them, and at that moment the enemy of our soul whispers, you can have all this. Just give me your soul. And I don't have to tell you what happens if you take that offer. Today, social drugs seek to stimulate a yes to that whisper, and the sellout has become the real definition of a man. But I'm here to tell you that is straight from the pits of hell. Who taught us how to hate ourselves? From ancient patriarchs to riding on niggas for colors, to men who turned the world upside down, to slave to corporate empires. We've heard the stories of Europeans coming to Africa. They captured slaves and shipped them off across the seas. This narrative is a classic display of power struggle that rages in America and across the world, a struggle that has been the elephant in the room. Victor versus the victim. But let's start with the former victim, a helpless person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime. The European nations are the modern day oppressors. They have committed the most barbaric crimes known to man. This narrative continues. Even after Lincoln freed the slaves, we still are victim to their power. Not so fast. If one agrees with that last sentence, it means you have forfeited your birthright as a king in exchange for a peasant. If you agree that it was the strength of the Europeans that captured us, or their sheer ingenuity, why, you just perpetrate that false ideology of white supremacy. Does a student not pass the test because it is too hard? Or he did not study? A teacher can try to rig the test, but there is one higher than the teacher who controls the curriculum. The student may blame the test or even the teacher. Either way, he will be a slave of circumstances if he decides he is a victim. This reminds me of the first man, Adam. When confronted, he blamed his wife. And I've done the same. This flaw was so deeply rooted in my being that it destroyed many relationships. I kept repeating the same test, running into the same situations and women over and over, blaming it on them when it was me. It is the fallen nature, the human nature. Yes, we can be products of our environment too, but wrong choices created the environment. And on the flip side, it means that right choices will create a better environment. At some point, we must make righteous choices. It is the inability to face oneself in the mirror and acknowledge that weakness. The ignorance of not surrendering to Alahym and asking him for help. These are our enemies. In order for us to be men and righteous men at that, we need to point the finger at ourselves. We must take responsibility for ourselves, saying, I let myself down. I let you down. We let us down. We let our mothers down. We let our sisters down, and daughters too. Most of all, we let the Creator down. You see, Adam inherited dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living creature that crawls upon this earth. The earth was the responsibility of Adam with the help of the Word. Now look at what it has become. Sin has spread like a virus to the corners of the earth. Now, the only thing to do is torch this thing down to the roots. We are to blame for the condition of this world, the condition of our women who haven't been protected. The ones we have disrespected, neglected, and rejected. That poison has infected communities and children. I have rarely seen a so-called African-American man call a European woman a bitch, a hoe, a whore, a slut, with the same zeal he does towards his own sister. It's cowardly to bully those who are fragile. She is last on our agenda and money is first. Yet we are still behind when it comes to economics. We have put our women in position where they must carry the load and they are not built to do so. She is fragile, a delicate flower. Growing up, I saw my grandmother work so hard until it killed her. That same stress and weight has either broke some of our women or pushed them towards bitterness. We must take responsibility. The responsibility says we have pushed her to a career woman, a prostitute, a drug addict, a lesbian. Beauty seduced men to lust after a woman's body, but never desiring to know their mind. The definition of a man is not to have sex with countless women. I repeat that again. The definition of a real man is not to have sex with countless women. In fact, that is weakness. Why? Insecurity and seeking validation from women is the main culprit behind this behavior. No one on earth can validate you. Validation as a man is found in the Creator, who made us strong enough to carry the load for our family through the Messiah. We have to get our act together. We have to bring something to the table and restore our respect. Our women will respect us once we respect ourselves. She respects power and strength. We can set a new standard of what we love, and she will follow. A woman who praises Yahuwah should be our standard. Brothers, always remember, women will follow our lead. We need to create a culture that has a strong disdain against not protecting our women. So if we got to take a stand against the pimps, rappers, pushers, and thugs, whoremongers, and all the above, so be it. We must protect, respect, honor, and lead our women. We can no longer treat her like an object. What about the condition of our community? Come to any major city and it won't take long for you to figure out that someone thought long and hard about it. They plan out the city map to put the oppressed in their place. So it has made us beggars. Beggars in America when we used to be kings. We are in the land of those who capture us. Do you think if my ancestors captured you and if I bended off your downfall, I would stop controlling you? They own the corporations and factories that provide jobs. So they choose to employ their own. Not so with us. The lack of industry ownership in the community has created a lack of jobs for our people and has created devastating effects. If you can't get a job, create one. This way we can become not only prosperous individually, but collectively.
Then we can think about things like mergers and acquisitions. Why compete when we can grow together? Expanding, supporting one another. This is how we get ahead. A concept that is against the crab mentality. Let go of the ego, and eventually, by the mercy of Alahym, we can employ our own. Helping our brothers get off the streets. Bringing back some kind of dignity to our soul and race. No longer begging in the house of the oppressor. Beggars who are comfortable being a prostitute, pimped out like a whore. Not long ago, I went down to a swap meet in the heart of the hood. It summed up the pulse of the lost tribes here in America. To my right, Hispanic sold jewelry. Around the corner, Arabs peddled sneakers and clothes. Right in front of me, a nail shop. There, Asians did sisters' nails by the dozen. Sisters saw no problem with this. Neither did the brothers. But let me show you something. When that sister takes that money and gets her nails done by another nation, why, she just took a job from a young man who was about to get gunned down. He was standing on a block trying to get money the only way he could. Now we have to gather up money to bury him. If she spent that money with Tammy around the corner, around the block, we could create a job in the hood and get that young man off the block. But yet her ignorance is not only at fault for men having had the sense to step up and take responsibility and tell our women, no, you can't get your nails and hair done by another nation who is profiting off of us. No, you will not become a traitor to our people. No, you will not become a traitor to the heavenly empire. Men, when are we going to speak up and stand up? Men, when are we going to stop buying from these companies who won't even give you a job? Take some of that money for them Jordans and all those other oppressor companies and bring that back to the hood and create some jobs. It's not an option. It's not a choice. It's a necessity. Men, we have been the reason for the shape of our community. I'm here to declare that if you support another nation before your own flesh, why, you just pulled the trigger on your own brother, your own sister, your own children, your own mother. If Black lives matter, or if our lives matter, when are we going to fight and put these other nations out of business who are pimping us and then laugh at us for being so stupid? A kingdom needs slaves to survive. But once the slaves wake up, that kingdom will fall. These ideas ain't foreign. In Los Angeles, many ethnic groups and communities have ownership. They own and employ their own. They control and operate where they live. Why, you can't even go in one of their stores without them looking at you funny. At least these nations have one fundamental principle. One we have forgotten. The love for their self and their own people. It happened during the early ages of Black Wall Street era. Dubbed the Promised Land, coloreds came from everywhere trying to escape the bigotry of the South. It started from one building on Greenwood until it expanded into a thriving business district. We owned our home. They understand what real currency was, and it's love. At first, a lot of these Negroes didn't even have money. Only minimal education and only talents. What do you have, sir? Mr. Williams said to Mr. Thomas. Well, sir, I make a fine suit. What about you, mister? Mr. Thomas replied. They said I'm a fine beau. How about you cut my hair every 2 weeks and I'll make you a suit? Mr. Phillips said with a grin. Did you see that? The currency was love, not pride or ego. It's the concept of saying, let's build your house first, then help us build mines. The Negro Wall Street of America had Jim Crow at its back, and they were descendants of slaves. They worked together because they had no choice. But nowadays, integration has made the modern Negro so comfortable that he is scared to cling to his own people, his own flesh, to love himself. And today that dollar has become the currency, maybe God, in fact, to them. When it's only a piece of green paper, worthless, nothing more than a concept with invisible value. The dollar, what brothers will lie for, die for, and even give their soul for. Indeed, the faces on it are the ancestors who sold you, who beat you, and who hung you. Now you still dangle like strange fruit on a tree of ignorance. It's ironic that they still find a way to hang us on a tree, ignorantly worshiping the oppressor. Doesn't that sound insane? Worshiping someone who advocated hanging your mother and father from a tree? I think you forgot that they used to take our babies and give them to alligators, or they used to cut the mothers from the stomach to install fear. Only a lunatic would reverence and praise somebody like this. We have become to the point of mental insanity. The lost tribes. Others have succumbed to hate against Europeans. In this case, you must dig two graves. We who ascribe to responsibility choose neither, only love. Love is truth. And we don't have to take revenge. For all enemies of Alahym, whether the color of their skin, will face the same fate. He shall do far more damage than we could ever do. But by no means am I ignorant to the devil's schemes and systematic ills of those who rule. In the same city I graduated college, a disgusting and wicked individual opened fire on men and women in a church to please his demonic appetite. I am no stranger of European cop pulling his gun and you hoping you don't sneeze. It is a daily reality of men, our men. But what I'm talking about is the harsh reality of how we got to this position, the cause and effect. Europeans are nothing but a belt in Alahym's hand. The cause was sin of lust, pride, and fear. Spiritual treason is what I like to call it. Our propensity to be stiff-necked has led us to abandon Alahym of Yisrael and his commandments. And once that happened, he unleashed all hell against us. He warned us. Then across the tracks, the powers that be have created a hamster wheel called racism. Every time you get comfortable, they suck you right back in to fight against a never-ending guilt complex. How can you make war against a shadow? A shadow that says you are mentally inferior, and so what, you can run and jump. You're nothing but animals anyway. This is what the bigot says. Go ahead and protest. Meanwhile, we're going to sit back and watch you go to prison and slaughter yourself so we can collect this check. Furthermore, you can point the finger at us all day. It's nothing you can do because you have no power. To the uninitiated, these words are deep wounds, words that bring the most fury or tears. Neither, but there is another way. And we'll get to that in just a moment. I don't know about you, but I am tired of marching, protesting, or seeing a hashtag. The result is always the same. We always come up short. One of the major issues is the psyche in the brother. Is believing the Europeans' mythological status. I remember traveling to Africa, Ghana to be exact, where a young lady told me that to this day, a vast majority of Ghanaians view Europeans as gods, mighty ones. I believe that the so-called black man in America and across the world has been at the back so long that he's believed the same thing. He's believed the idols of a long-haired, blue-eyed European Messiah. We know this is a depiction of the Pope's son and doesn't reflect the Messiah's true appearance. The lost tribe male has believed that the great trailblazers in history did not look like him, and that he came from an uncivilized people. All lies. The truth will always bring forth witnesses. For instance, the dirt in Africa, the home of the Garden of Eden, dirt which Alahym made Adam from, is the physical color of him. Dirt, however, is trampled on. Is spit on, is stepped on, is treated like scum. This is nothing but a parable. We are that dirt that the world stands on. We are viewed as scum of the earth, and even viewed as such, and even view ourselves as such. What a travesty. For Alahym picked dirt to be his greatest creation, to display his power, or taking something so meaningless, so despised, and making a mighty people. We are more than just dirt. It's time for us to go home. We must get to the root of our demise: sin, lust, pride, and fear. These have been our enemies for far too long. These sins should become an abomination to us. We must get free from them. Bold enough to expose and wage war against them, for the forever of our souls hinges on it. We know that we are engaged in a war, and it's not a flesh and blood one. Therefore, our principles have to be in the right place. First, Alahym, the Father, and his son Yahushua. Love our neighbor as ourselves. I need you to love yourself. 2, to love me. How can you hate yourself and love someone else at the same time? This is the solution. The Creator's love will transform us into boys to men. He will teach us how to not hate ourselves. He will teach us what a real man looks like through his statutes, laws, and commandments. This is the foundation, Alahym. After love pierces the skin and the spirit of Yahuwah touches the bones, a resurrection occurs. A resurrection occurs. Just like those dry bones in the valley of Lazarus laying in that grave for 4 days. Then you will know that we have dominion over all the tactics of the devil. We have the strength in the Messiah to love our wives and children, to turn our communities right side up. This love loves those who hate us, not because we are naive, but for the simple fact that we all been enemies of Yahuwah before. Love is not about cupcakes and hugs. It is the truth in action. It does not excuse their crimes, nor have we forgotten. But vengeance is mine, saith Yahuwah. Revolutionary love is radical. It transforms the mind. No longer slaves to hate or being a victim, or slaves to a false European ideologies of 9 to 5s or money. For we do not work for money, but it works for us if we obey the voice of Yahuwah. There is so much more in store. Our enemies who rise up against us will be defeated before us. They come out against us in 1 way and flee before us in 7 ways. No man shall stand against us all the days of our lives, and Alahym shall put the dread of us and the fear of us upon all the land where we tread. For we are not grasshoppers, the giants are. He will command the blessings upon our homes, and all that we put our hands to, the blessing will be upon the land Yahuwah Alahym gives us. We are a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, and all the peoples of earth will see that we are called by the name of Yahuwah, and they will be afraid of us. We honor Yahuwah with all the first fruits of our increase. We put him first. We abound only in the prosperity of our business. We are blessed to be a blessing. Yahuwah opens for us the good storehouse of heavens and give us a blessing to our family in season and out of season. Blessed is all the work of our hands. We lend to many nations but do not borrow. We do not get loans but we give them. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We have been given authority over all demons on the face of the earth, even Satan himself. And none of these devils' traps shall work against us. All if we keep Yahuwah first. Royal men, we appreciate, honor, respect, and care and love ourselves. We do not disrespect ourselves. There is no need for us to force someone to love us. We lay down our lives for each other if it need be. Our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our queens, our princesses are not objects and they can count on us. They are our helpers to build empires and expand families. We sow the best and we reap the best. And no longer are we victims, but we are victorious this day as we completely trust and obey Yahusha. It's about time we rise to our position on this earth and think higher of Yahuwah and what he can do through us. No longer will we settle for the back of the line. We have no excuse. I press toward this mark with you. Through the Messiah, men, we must get free for our wives and children so they don't have to slave anymore. Let us leave a legacy that is more than earthly riches. May we look to the one who can set us free. I know it's a fight for your life, but I need you to win. And I love you and I appreciate you. Hallelujah.